going far away from cricket centric to administration and all the other rubbish around it.
Do you, in your heart, believe that Sri Lanka will be able to qualify uh, for the next World Cup?
I think it's going to be really tough to finish in the top eight.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Around the Wickets. And like we all know, that it's no secret that we as Sri Lankan fans are a little frustrated at how the Sri Lankan cricket team has been playing. But being loyal fans, we need to stick by the team and keep supporting them. And to discuss, however, about the shortcomings and also some positives that came through the England series, joining with me are two members of the Papare.com cricket team and very, very ardent fans of cricket, Estelle Vasudevan and Sharmeegan. Welcome, guys, to the show. I know a lot of grilling that you like to do. Let's kickstart with Estelle, new member on the show. Estelle, real to have you. And I know it's not a very nice talk about Sri Lanka cricket, but what is your overall outlook on what was uh, Sri Lanka's? I think one of the most difficult tours to England.
Yeah, I think it was a tough tour, as you mentioned before, Sudarshana. And overall, it was clear the difference between the two sides. I mean, England, resource wise and seemingly skill wise, also looked way ahead of Sri Lanka. And of course, the team was not helped by the three suspensions, three guys who possibly two who would have definitely made the playing 11 in the ODIs. Um, so the team was hampered. I think there isn't much that we can do immediately because, as many pundits and many former cricketers have spoken about, the fact that this is not something that this downfall or this deterioration in quality is not something that has come about overnight. It's been something that has been building since I would say around the 2014 to 15 mark itself, where Sri Lanka quality wise or skill wise have not been able to match up with other countries. In a sense, I would say we've been left behind by teams like England. Um, definitely in terms of resources. Yeah, England probably have about 5, 6 analysts in their team. Sri Lanka don't. Things like that. But also in terms of skill and quality, we have really fallen behind.
Yes, absolutely. I think you're spot on in that because Sri Lanka have been left behind by the likes of England. Big three, of course, making huge strides in world cricket. But Shamikin, let's talk a little more about this particular tour because after the T20s and also the infamous bio bubble breach, there was some hope when it came to the one day tour, the ODI series. Sri Lanka were hoping to fight back because when it comes to the World Super League, the points were going to be very important. Sri Lanka were languishing at the bottom of the table, but we can't crow about anything that we achieved during that one day series as well.
Yes, Sudarshan, I mean, I agree with Estelle that maybe this couldn't have been overcome overnight, but there were certain aspects of the game which they could have made been better. And I also think these entire outfit, most of the team, most of the players, they lack character. That is where I think the problem starts. And yes, it is a fact that we have a crippled first system, and we don't get quality bowlers here. And I'm sure like people like Fernando or Fernando, they wouldn't have batted for that kind of swing in Sri Lanka. And obviously, when they like, maybe they have been in England, Avishka has been to England, but that doesn't mean that their muscles still remember the same kind of technique that they have to use. And I think Dhananjay Silva showed master class in how to counter swing, but the rest of them failed. And those kind of things could only be fixed by fixing domestic. But still, I think going into this tour, they could have taken better decisions. Like it only took one game to figure out the short ball. They just went bang, 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 short at almost 4 or 5 batsmen. And Vanidu Asuranga mainly, that Chanaka, and of course Dhananjay Silva himself. They fell prey for those. Like, and they are not reading the fields as much as the English did. So those things are basics, and I think maybe it's the pressure and also the kind of the mental status around the team that is what caused those kind of stuff. I think unless if you're not fit, you at least have to act. That's how you can survive in cricket. When you look weak, they're gonna feast on you, and that's what England did.
Megan, you made a valid point that Sri Lanka were quite inexperienced from the English conditions, but a very serious problem Sri Lanka has is the fact that we haven't been excelling in our conditions as well. When England came down to Sri Lanka for two Test matches, they basically bossed us. So it cannot be the conditions per se; it's the outlook and the way that the players are playing. Estelle, I'll take a look. We'll just take a look at the batting performances on the Sri Lankan side. Now, look when you look at the highest run scorer when in the entire tour, it's Dasun Shanak. It's a player who comes down at number 6, 7, or 5. He's been rotated up on that order as well. So when he is your highest scoring batsman, there is something radically wrong with your top order.
Yeah, I think you got that right, Sudarshana. Dasun Shanaka batted at 4, 5, 6, 7. Uh, his natural place in this team is 6 or 7. That's where he's been batting throughout his career. So, looking at his numbers for the series, yes, he was the top scorer, and that does tell you the story that top order has not fired at all. But also, due to no fault of his strike rate is sitting at 75-80, right? So, do you want a guy in limited overs cricket who bats at 6, 7, coming in with a strike rate of 75? So, that he's been forced to do that because the top order has, I mean, he's coming to bat, I think, in the three ODIs, our power play scores were all in the 40s, losing either four or 3 or 4 wickets. So he's coming in a situation where he's forced to then, manage to not get out and, drive the low order with him. And that, I mean, looking back, people will be critical of his record. Look at it and say, okay, look, he's a low middle order batsman, but his strike rate is 75. But at the same time, we have to understand that the situation he came into bat in all the matches, one game, was where the game was pretty much gone, and he needed to build so that we could get to a respectable total. So I think there's a lot to think about in the batting. I think one person in particular who was disappointing was Kusal Janit Pereira. I know there was a huge amount of pressure on him as captain and leading a young side, which a lot of people were criticizing, dropping Angelo Matthews, Dimuth Karunaratne. So he came into the tour with um, a lot of criticism and a lot of pressure on him. And unfortunately, with also the suspensions, he was put under more pressure, and it really seemed to affect his game. So that is one guy who Sri Lanka know you know who is at a good standard. So when a guy like that is bogged down with the pressure and he's unable to play his natural game, then that's definitely a problem.
Absolutely. I think you really did uh, point out a very big problem Sri Lanka had because Sri Lanka weren't getting any explosive starts. Sri Lanka was actually really low on their shot selection where there was much to be decided on. So we can now, Estelle spoke about how Dasun Shanaka's average was languishing at 75 to 80. But that was a problem because of the context that he came out to bat at. He had to make sure that he held on to his wicket and then put on a decent partnership, which is why his strike rate is low. Same problem can be addressed to one of the recent finds of Sri Lanka, Wanidu Hasaranga, when it came to his bowling. Because Wanidu went wicketless in many of the games, but that was because of no fault of his. because his bowling was pretty on par. But England had the luxury of seeing him out. And let's talk about the bowling and how well the Sri Lankan bowlers have done during this tour.
Yes, Sudarshan. I mean, we've got. I think finally Sri Lanka found a good set of bowlers, a good composition of bowlers. We have extra pace in Samira. We have Gail and the slow balls, cutters kind of work in Udana, and there is who is able to move the ball. So I think we found a good set of bowlers, and it's about managing it from here on. But what I saw in this tour is the bowlers were totally overshadowed. They had good performances. I mean, they picked 5 6 wickets almost consecutively. So when they were defending like way below past scores, and they were still able to pick up a few wickets and trouble the English batsmen. I think they put a good show, but it was totally overshadowed by Ismail batting. But Manidu Asaranga is a asset that we have to use wisely. We have to give him some luxury. And when they are just chasing around 180 runs to a win or 120 runs, they can just see off his 60 balls and make sure that they score around others. And that is not going to be a huge impact in the shorter run. But thinking of Manidu Asaranga's confidence, thinking of his game, I think that is a problem there. When he goes wicketless for about a couple of series, and not of his fault, but human minds think differently. And he might be under pressure. He might be frustrated that he's not getting wickets. He may change his technique. He may change a little bit of his bowling action around to see what is happening, and those kind of things put bowlers off. And that is why this is a team sport, and that is why we need a score of that. We should make sure that Manidu is not put off like that. So that totally depends. Then this is the kind of effect that poor batting has on the bowling.
Yes, you really got to feel for the Sri Lankan bowlers who really did try hard. Estelle, now looking at the Sri Lankan fast bowlers, Dushmantha Chamira has been one of those players who've been consistently improving his standards, and he's really put his hand up to be Sri Lanka's front runner and the spearhead when it comes to fast bowling. Chamira has climbed a couple of places in the bowling rankings as well. What was your thought about Samir and his performance in this tour and maybe the earlier tours as well?
Yeah, like you mentioned, he's been improving from tour to tour. So that's been one of the major positives for Sri Lanka because it's been a while, apart from Lasith Malinga, it's been a while from when we've had someone like that who's able to bowl at different stages of the innings. So Chamira was good when the ball was new. He was good in the middle overs, and he was very impressive, I think, at the death as well, particularly in the second ODI where he managed to really draw England back. Um, what's impressive is the pace in which he's bowling and the control he's showing now. We've had guys who bowled with a lot of pace. Someone like Lahiru Kumar, I think, has had a few really good series. But that consistency that Dushmantha Chamira was able to show during this series and the series before this was really a real positive sign for Sri Lanka. I think this was mentioned also by the Sky Cricket team. The bowling unit Sri Lanka has right now in T20 and ODI cricket is something definitely that we can work with. We've got Dushmantha Chamira, we've got Wanidhu Hasaranga as wicket-taking bowlers. We just need to build up a few more support guys in there. Someone like Sandakan in the T20s has done really well. We need to build that around them. And I think another guy who was impressive, although he didn't pick up too many wickets in the ODIs, was Binura Fernando. A great asset to have once again, left armer coming in. He's tall, he gets some extra bounce. So another really good um, a real positive sign for Sri Lanka's bowling and something to look forward.
Estelle, I think you were absolutely spot on in that. And this question is to both of you. I think when it comes to bowling, like I said, Shamira and Wanidu Hasarang has really put their hands up with very good bowling performances. But in my opinion, I think 11 overs number 11 to 40, Sri Lanka is still struggling with being able to take wickets in those middle overs. Because if the batsmen are going to see off the bowlers in that period safely, they will launch come the 41st to the 50th over, who do you think can be utilized? Like Estelle mentioned, Bruno Fernando did put up a real good bowling performance despite going not purchasing many wickets. Who others will be able to put their hands up and say we can take up that mantle?
We do have a couple of wicket-taking bowlers, but we don't have guys who can support those bowlers in the middle. So we've all heard the adage, right? Like bowling in pairs, right? So that's what we need to develop. Sometimes there'll be a guy who's not picking up wickets. He probably bowl his 10 overs for 55 runs and get one wicket or no wickets at all. But his value is in the support he provides for um, someone like Vanidu Hasaranga, or even I personally still believe Lakshan Sanda can be a wicket-taking option in limited overs cricket for us. I know that's going to be a popular thought among Sri Lankan cricket fans, but I still think that he's got the skill, but his the mental aspect of his game needs to be honed, and he needs to be his confidence is something that is lacking. But like we've seen in T20 cricket, he can provide that wicket-taking option in the middle, and I mean Sri Lanka could be really successful if they've got both Sandakan and Hasaranga doing well in those middle overs, particularly in ODI cricket, where there is a big period, like you mentioned, 11 to 40, where you need to not only ensure that the batsmen don't take the game away from you, but you also need to keep, you know, picking up wickets so that they don't have a launching pad to really go after the bowling in those last 10 overs.
This question is to both of you. Do you, in your heart, believe that Sri Lanka will be able to qualify for the next World Cup, or do you think we will have to play the qualifier tournament? Megan, I'll let you go first.
So, looking at this very technically, Darshana, I think we have two options. I mean, two chances that we could take is that South Africa playing in Sri Lanka and Zimbabwe playing in Sri Lanka. I'm not going to say Afghanistan and India because they are good players of spin, and obviously we have to go to New Zealand. So that those are the remaining fixtures for us: New Zealand, India, South Africa, Zimbabwe, and Afghanistan. And four of them are home series. Now that is a big plus point, and India is playing. I'm not gonna just comment that there is a second string, but still, we don't have Virat Kohli's and we don't have Rohit Sharma's here, but still, I'm ruling that series also out. But we still have hope in South Africa and Zimbabwe, and if we can manage at least a couple of wins or three more wins around in these three series, because Afghanistan is a strong team in one-day cricket. So I'm just ruling them also as not so sure option for us, but I think they really should capitalize on Zimbabwe and South Africa. South Africa is not that good players of spin, and especially when they come down to Sri Lanka, we have to take that opportunity and be on top of them.
Estelle, your thoughts on that? Because, like Shumikan says, there are two clear tournaments that we can try and attack and capitalize on. But what is your outlook? Do you think it's possible for Sri Lanka to get on top and maybe be in the first eight?
Okay, let's be honest. With the pictures we have at the moment, I think it's going to be really tough to finish in the top eight because, as you've mentioned, 9 games already done, right? So we've got less games to come than many of the other teams that are ahead of us. But I would say it's all about at the end of the day, it's all about how you perform at the main tournament. So what we must do is even in the series against India. Uh, we've got a great opportunity because, like Sharmeegan mentioned, there's no Virat Kohli, no Rohit Sharma, no Jasprit Bumrah, right? Those are three of their key players. So there's an opportunity there to get at least one or two wins in the bag. I think there would have been a lot of soul searching following the England series, a lot to learn from, right? And it's important, I think, particularly for the players to go into these series not thinking, oh, we can't beat this Indian team. They may be a second string team, but we can't beat them. I think that's where the mental aspect of the game really comes in. If you're going into a game thinking, okay, let's try to get one win in here, or let's try to score 250, where a challenging total is going to be 300 plus, then half the battle is lost. So personally, I think, like Sharmeegan mentioned, it's going to be tough to qualify into the top eight. But even if we don't, if we do have to play qualifiers, I think we should we should use that as an opportunity to build up form, build up confidence of players, because we'll be playing a lot of so-called minnows in the qualifiers if we have to, and that could be an opportunity for a lot of players to really build up their confidence.
Brings us to the next tour of Sri Lanka, which is the India tour of Sri Lanka, where we will be playing three ODIs followed by three T20s from the 13th to the 25th of July. Very quick turnaround time for most of these players. Shamigan, there is a lot of uncertainty around this tour because we still don't know whether Sri Lanka will go with some of the players who represented the country in England, or whether they will go with a brand new set of players because there is a contractual issue. Currently, from what we learn, 30 players have signed who have been in Sri Lanka and who have been part of that residential camp. So we don't know whether the national cricketers who are returning from England will agree to sign. What are your thoughts on the tour? And we already know the importance of the tour. We have to have a positive outcome from this tour in order for our cricket to go forward. But what's your thought on the selection and the squad? How will the squad turn out to be?
So that's why, first of all, to correct it, it's not 30 players, it's 39 cricketers. And I think Banika Rajapaksa has also been offered a contract, but we are not very clear of if it is a senior one, Sri Lanka or A or emerging. So around 40 people have signed contracts. And so this we are talking of 2021 and 22 for the annual contract. So which seems to me is like Sri Lanka cricket is geared up. Even if you are not gonna sign the contracts, we are gonna play with these players. That's the kind of thinking I suppose is behind this signing of the contracts and practicing to buy bubbles. So basically, 13 players who are I would say national discards, like someone like Dilshan Munavira, someone like Malinda Pushpa Kumara, Ashan Priyanchan. Those are the players who are in the 13. So those players are practicing in a bubble. So and also there is emerging players like from under 19, just under 19 pass outs to someone like few Sri Lanka A cricketers. So Sri Lanka is gearing up for that option. But at the same time, around all these things, does the question just what you asked is that what do I feel about selection and all that? I think Sri Lanka is going far away from cricket centric to administration and all the other rubbish around it. I mean, we have a India team here, and that we feel is a little depleted, and we have real good opportunity to pounce on. And we are looking at World Cup qualifiers and all those kind of huge things, which other teams, in my opinion, is giving a lot of thought to. I think we are not giving that kind of thought about cricket, and we are thinking of all the other things around cricket. So, and this could be very dangerous. Sudarshan, possibly what could happen, okay, whatever the contractual issue it is, it's at the end of the day professional sport, it should be done in a particular way. But we forgot cricket. They are talking of fearless cricket, they are talking of Sri Lankan brand of cricket. I think that is the Sri Lankan brand of cricket. We have been put to test again, where do we stick by our cricket, or are we going to go around the all the other things around cricket which are not really, I mean, they are necessary, I can't say it's not necessary, but what's important here is winning. First of all, players should take that to their heart, come back, win, and then maybe talk all these things, deal with all those things. When we start winning, everything will fall in place. So I think both parties, uh, the administration and the players, they should come to a mutual understanding and should focus on winning games. First of all, play your best 11. There was a question from Nasir Hussain, and in England they were asking if this is the Sri Lanka's best 11 that came. So I mean, we should not give that opportunity to ask people, for people to point fingers and ask us. That is my kind of thought in this matter, Sudarshana. I think we should really focus on the chance we have in front of us, first of all.
Absolutely, I think Shamigan, that is something very very important, and you're absolutely spot on. And something that you mentioned as well, little development uh, pertaining to Sri Lankan cricketer Banika Rajapaksa. first handed a 1 year suspended sentence, which is suspended for 2 years. There was a lot of miscommunication of in this regard, and he is already included in the bubble, and will be available for selection for India. And he's been fined $5,000 for breaching the agreement with Sri Lanka Cricket. Estelle, there was, like I said, there was a lot of uncertainty amongst a lot of people because of the maybe the terming of this punishment. If you can go over this, and what are your thoughts? I think as a player, yes, you might want to come out and speak of how it's unfair, but when you enter a contract, you need to be able to respect that contract as well.
Yes, absolutely, Sudarshana. I think um, we are outside, so we don't really know what was part of his contract with Sri Lanka Cricket. Whatever it is, I think it's time that we put it behind us now. Banika Rajapaksa, as everybody knows, he's a guy who has been touted as, the next best thing since he played for the under 19 team. But unfortunately, due to not get opportunities and due to various factors, he has not been able to really reach his potential on the cricket field so far. So I think now they wanted him to improve his fitness, to improve his skin folds. He's done that. And I think should be applauded for taking that step and getting it done in such a short period of time. But now it's time to focus on cricket. It's time for him to not to I wouldn't say prove it to anybody. I don't think he needs to prove it to anybody that he can play cricket. Everybody knows he can. But it's time to put the things that are off the field now out of his mind and focus on what he can do for Sri Lanka, because Sri Lanka is in dire need of a guy like him who can clear the boundaries, who can come bat in the middle order. So it's also an opportunity now for him with a lot of, uh, we can say, vacant spots now in the team with a couple of guys, looking at bans or, suspensions coming up. So it's an opportunity also for not only him, but for a lot of the other guys who've been drawn up into this um, setup now. Focus on your cricket. You've proved your fitness now. Now it's time to make some runs.
Yes, like Megan mentioned, and like Esther mentioned, if Banuka Rajapaksa can put up a real good performance in the middle and show everybody that cricket is the most important thing. We do speak about the fitnesses, we speak about bans, we speak about player breaches, we speak about contracts. But what's very important is what you go and do in the middle. And we really do hope that the Sri Lankan team will do that come the Indian tour. Thank you so much to both of you for having this chat. And we really do hope come the next week when we speak about maybe the first game of the Indian tour of Sri Lanka, we will have some real positives to bring all of you. Sharmeegan is smiling because I've been doing this. I've been saying this for the past couple of shows, and we still haven't been able to speak about any positives. So
Jinxing it.
hopefully
You're
next
jinxing it.
we'll, yeah, Beacon.
You're jinxing it.
I really hope I'm not the reason Sri Lanka hasn't put up positive performances, but let's hope I'm wrong. And next week around, there will be a real good performance for us to speak. Again, thank you to the both of you for sharing your thoughts, and we look forward to having you next week as well.
See you soon, Sudarshan.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
All right, there you go. That is the end of Around the Wickets episode for this week. And like always, we as very eager cricket fans at ThePapare.com want you to come and interact with us. Do comment on what issues that we should discuss with you as fans, and also on our YouTube. Do subscribe us and make sure that you up to date on everything that is cricket. Thank you so much for joining us. And next week we will bring you another episode of Around the Wickets.
For premium content and exclusive member benefits, subscribe to thepapare.com today.